So I've been pondering this for a while and trying to figure out if I want to share about it, what I want to share about it. Um, I want to reference politics, but I want to make it really clear that I'm probably not going to say things that people on either side can agree with wholeheartedly. And that's because I just want to share my genuine perspective here. And I actually want to start with an illustration. Part of me is going, what are you doing, Heidi? This is not going to earn you any friends. But seriously, okay, so let's just start with this illustration. Um, something that actually happened to me a few days ago, because this is what actually kind of solidified things in my mind of, oh, that's actually a great example on the small scale of what I feel is happening on a much larger scale politically. So this story actually happened to me a few days ago. Um, I was at a popular trampoline park with my two kids. My son is 3 years old, almost four, and I had my baby on me in a carrier. And he's zipping around all over this like huge trampoline park, and he needs kind of close supervision. He has a speech delay, so sometimes there is an issue where he is being bullied and he doesn't really know how to speak up for himself or communicate that there's an issue going on. And so I need to jump in. And sometimes he is being the bully. He's a 3-year-old, and people assume because of his speech delay that he doesn't understand. He does. He understands, but he doesn't always listen unless I'm around, and if I can intervene, then sometimes it's like, oh, not a very good day. You kind of need to take a break for a little bit, buddy. So I supervise him, and that means I kind of have to follow him around. And there's these observation areas where like they have some benches, like they expect the parents are going to sit down and watch their kids as they play. Um, and so at one point, this observation area, which is quite large, was actually being utilized by two people who were throwing a ball back and forth. And I'm coming up with my baby here, my little 7-month-old baby, and I'm like, ooh, I can't actually be in this area because it's not safe. I can't have a ball hitting my baby in the head. And so, they looked like adults. They were, young adults. I don't know, maybe older teenagers. I didn't ask, but I just approached one of them, and I was just like, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. I actually need to watch my toddler over there, and I'm not sure how I can be in this area safely with my baby, with you guys throwing the ball around. And it was immediately clear that she did not appreciate me approaching her, speaking up. She kind of looked me up and down. She's like, well, you could sit over there. And I was like, oh, if I sit there, could you guarantee that the ball won't hit my baby? And she's like, well, no, I can't guarantee anything. And then she just like kind of stared me down and threw the ball again, and then turned it back to me. And so I just kind of said, okay, I'll go ask this staff member. And so I went off and I found a staff member, and I said, hey, I'm so sorry to bring up an issue to you, but I have to be watching my kid, and I kind of need the observation area, and people are throwing a ball back and forth there. It's not really safe. So staff member went and talked to them. People were pretty upset about it. They said, we have special permission to be here. We asked a manager, and they said it was okay. And there was this whole conflict where they were given a special exemption because at the time no one was using the observation area. And anyway, a compromise was reached. They were able to go into a different area on the trampolines so I could use the observation area. Okay, great, that worked out. They were kind of giving me stink eye, and I was pretending I didn't notice, and just, we're here to have a good time. And so, of course, my toddler's going all over the place, and I'm following him all over, and then maybe half an hour later, there was two kids that were throwing a ball back and forth in the observation area. And this time I was like, they're little kids. I'm not going to try to, lay down the law. I'm just going to let staff know, like, hey, so sorry, there's, I kind of need the observation area again, like, and staff was like, they're really not supposed to be having balls in this area at all because there's designated areas for the balls that are netted off for safety, specifically for this reason. I wasn't the only person there with my baby. There's other adults there, other parents there who had a baby and was watching an older sibling too. And so a staff member went over and, she was kind about it. She was just like, hey, kids, sorry, you got to keep the ball in the netted area. Kids are like, oh, man. The way, like, I don't know, like 8 or 9-year-olds are. And so meanwhile, my kid's like running circles, so I'm like tracking him, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go this way to follow him. So I've got eyes on my kid. Staff members are handling that. I'm staying out of it. And I passed this guy coming. We're going opposite directions, and he yelled out. I assumed he was yelling at a kid. I think it was something like, "What is wrong with you?" And I'm unfortunately, there are parents who yell that sort of things at their kids. So, at first I didn't even make eye contact. I just assumed he was yelling at his kid. But then he got right in my face and he was like, you just get people to move because you just want to sit there. He was like, his whole face was red. He was contorted in anger. He was screaming at me, like with his face about this far away from me. And I just like I'm sure I didn't say anything, but like every part of my face was just total confusion. Like, what? Like, why are you so angry at me? Like, I totally was not expecting anyone to be angry at me. I just had my baby on me and I just needed to supervise my toddler, and this is actually what the space was designed for, and they were actually breaking the rules, and I'm not just going after anyone breaking the rules, but I kind of have to watch my toddler and I can't just leave my baby. Like, I thought that was, it never occurred to me that someone would be upset with me for that. So that kind of just startled me, and I was too shocked to say anything. And he stormed past me and went to go talk to the other people who had moved earlier, who had been throwing the ball earlier, the two adults. And so staff member was about 10 feet away, but she had her back turned. It was very loud in there, so I just kind of went up and I was like, that parent is yelling at me. I'm not quite sure how to navigate this. So she went in and talked to them, and I was accused of yelling at the previous people to move, which didn't happen. And he was telling me that I was really dumb, and which, yeah, I was pretty shocked. So he probably was like, oh, she's so dumb that she couldn't figure it out. Anyway, it was very strange. And so, ultimately staff members came and talked to me, and they were like, you did nothing wrong. Let us know if he harasses you again. But just, I swear I'm going somewhere with this. But it was just like, just hopefully, they're over on that side. I'm just following my kid around. I can just live and let live. Like, this is fine. And it was as we were actually getting ready to leave, we were getting our shoes on, and this guy approached me, and I didn't make eye. I saw him coming. I averted my eyes. He was mumbling to the people he was with about me. He was just like, I just caught things like, well, you're not the only one. Like, and he was like body language my direction. Like he was trying to get me to say things, and I just was in my head. I was just like, ignore it. Just let it blow over. Like, it's not worth it. But I started recording on my phone just in case. And as he was leaving, he was like, you should feel bad now, we're leaving. And I got it recorded on my phone and showed the manager. And like, I hate having to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to feel like I have to record interactions to protect myself. But he was so angry with me. And I just I've been sitting with it for a few days because it's such a shock to me that someone would be that upset about something that I thought was so like clear cut and understandable. And a lot of people say it's not worth it, but to me, it's not. This is about trying to understand. For me, I really want to understand people. I want to understand where people are coming from. So when someone comes at me from a place that I just don't get, then like my brain just wants to pick at it because I care about people. And even if I don't know people, I care about them. I have empathy for people. And when they do actions that I don't understand, then I want to understand it. And I'm like, what's going on? Because I feel like at the root of it, like most people, like 99.99999% of people are doing their best. Most people generally have good intentions. Not all the time, but kind of at their heart, like what drives them usually is somewhat good intentions. And so when there's behavior like this, then I just go, how does that correlate with kind of these core values that I have? And I was thinking, well, he probably didn't know that the first two people had been given a special exemption, and then like they were moved to a different area so that we could all get our needs met, and this is good. But then these two other kids thought that it was okay because these other people were breaking the rules, so then they got to break the rules, and then it just wasn't working. And even the other person who had the baby was telling staff that she had to move from that observation area when they started throwing the ball around, so it wasn't just me. And so, but like, he, he might have thought, oh, you can observe closely enough from across the place. You don't have to be right there observing. I can only guess. But as pondering, it's like, okay, I could see that if he didn't think I had to be right there, I could see that he would be feeling like I was just arbitrarily getting people to move. And I mean, some people even don't really see the danger of a ball being thrown around a baby. Maybe they can just assume that I could always be fast enough and it's just my job to protect my baby, and I could just, do this quickly enough to protect her head because she was on my chest. It all comes down to what information you have. He might not have known that the balls were not supposed to be in that area in the first place. And so he had different information, and so he made different assumptions, and he assumed that his perspective was right, my perspective was wrong, and it made him very angry. And I, from my perspective, I'm of course assuming my perspective is right from the information that I have. And I was just kind of shaken up at why he would be angry with me. So now that I can understand theoretically, again, just guessing, where he's coming from, then I think, okay, so the difference between him and I is that I am empathetic. I wasn't trying to take their ball space away from them. I just needed a way to have my problem solved. And he was not being empathetic towards me. He didn't start with the assumption that I had, maybe there might be a reason for it. That's not just me being a terrible person, maybe I actually had a need to be solved. And so I want to put that in the context of today's politics. And I'm not going to go into specifics about politics, but everyone is trying to find a way to get their needs met. And when people take actions that are in direct contrast to you trying to get your needs met or your friends' needs met or whatever it is, then it's very easy to get angry with them and just have an immediate, like, what do you think you're doing? How could you be doing that? You're a terrible person. You know, my first impression of this guy is, you're a terrible person for just coming up and yelling in my face. His impression of me is, you're a terrible person for just coming up and telling little kids to move and they can't play with their ball. It's terrible. Even though I didn't even talk to them, I went and got staff, which is basically the same thing. So, both feel like each other a terrible person. Probably not both terrible people. But it can look that way and it can feel that way. So, I know this isn't going to solve anything with politics, but I try really hard to keep kindness and empathy at the forefront, regardless of someone's political affiliations. Now, I have had to create a little bit of distance between myself and certain friends because, and this can happen on both sides, some people feel like all of politics is putting down the other side. And all of politics is basically just puffing your side up and pushing the other side down. And that's not how I see it. And that's really hard for me to be around. I'm going to say specifically, when Republicans are talking about, like, you know, doing stuff just to, like, own the Democrats, like, oh, this is triggering them. Isn't that so funny how triggering this is to them? That is not funny. Okay? But Democrats or liberals, whatever label you want to use, you talking about how punching a Nazi is good or murdering people in cold blood is good, I cannot endorse that, get behind that. And it's hard to actually even see you in the same way when a friend of mine says that. Just because I cannot get behind treating people as less than human. And that's why I tend to lean liberal, is because I believe that everyone should be treated as human, that everyone should have access to what makes us human. I'm trying not to get too specific there. But a lot of the hate that I see, I think the hate should be directed in ways that are productive towards trying to find a solution, rather than making human beings out to be the enemy. And rather than, how do I even put this? Mischaracterizing people and mischaracterizing policies, intentionally spreading misinformation because it makes, or, you know, leaving certain things out, not sharing the whole truth. Great example of that, I'm just going to use one, I can't stop myself from using one example of the what's been suggested for mental health camps to go to do organic farming, that thing. I'm not going to go super deep into specifics of that, but what went around in my circles was, oh, it's like a concentration camp for mentally ill people, and actually that was presented as a voluntary thing. It's just like, hey, here's another approach to mental health that's completely voluntary but might be cool. And I felt kind of betrayed because, like, that really went around in my circles, and then, like, someone mentioned, like, hey, you should look up the actual truth of this, and I did, and I'm like, dang it. Because for me, the truth is important, kindness is important, empathy is important. And I know that's not going to solve all of politics, But politics is people trying to get their needs met in a systemic way. That's probably not the ideal definition, but that's my current definition. And there's going to be conflicts, just like at the trampoline park. There's conflicts. There's one space here. How do we negotiate people getting their needs met, and whose needs gets prioritized when there's a conflict? And maybe you can't meet everyone's needs perfectly in that space. How do you negotiate that? That's what's happening, just on a way larger scale. And I know the scales are unfairly tipped in lots of different ways. I know the average person in the US doesn't have a voice that meaningfully changes government. And so I am not completely naive. But for me, everything has to start with kindness, with empathy, with seeing each other as human beings. And when that starts to get lost on either side of the aisle, that's when I have to kind of distance myself and check out. And so I guess my hope is that for anyone watching this, for anyone commenting, for anyone following me, family, friends, I'm a little nervous sharing this because some of you are going to be like, I thought you were on my side. I'm on the side of, I want things to get fixed. Everyone knows our system is broken. We just disagree on how to fix it. And so this is just me trying to be true to myself. Is I think it's more important that we learn how to listen to each other, that we prioritize truth in an era of rampant misinformation. I think that's the only way we're gonna get out of this with our humanity intact. So that's all I got to say for tonight. Let me know if this resonates with you. Let me know what your thoughts are.